Well, folks, it's been quite a little while since I put a video up last. I've had to take care of some real-world things, including some new training for a new job that I'm going to be having here in the very near future. I'm excited about that. So, unfortunately, I was not able to film anything in the meantime, but I'm back now, thankfully, for the holidays, because Christmas is tomorrow. So, nice little Christmas Eve. But I figured for all of the hard work and things that I've been doing this year, so to reward myself with something a little nice. So we're going to talk about this here. This is a new Colt Python. So the 2020 Pythons that you can tell based on that little QR code that is right there. Kind of a ugly mark if you ask me, but at least it's a very distinguishable way to identify a new Python versus an old one. So my history of Python. So I have had a Python in the family for quite a long time. It was inherited, I guess, from a family friend, close friend of my dad, who unfortunately passed away quite a number of years ago. He had an original Python, and we were able to save that, thankfully, from his, frankly, vulture family that wanted to gobble up all the things in his possession and didn't really care. They didn't even wait for the body to be cold, okay? So, but thankfully we were able to save the Python. And so that was the original Python. That was one of the first revolvers that I ever shot. And just absolutely gorgeous, beautiful gun. It also is a 6-inch blued model, although his one has like the imitation mother of pearl grips on it with a nice little Colt medallion and stuff on it. Absolutely gorgeous gun. And I believe he also had a custom trigger job done in it, which kind of colored my perceptions about revolvers since then. So I really do appreciate a revolver with a very, very good trigger. But ever since that time, I have really wanted my own Python because, they're just really, really nice guns. And they're very cool, very iconic looking. Anybody who's played Team Fortress 2 knows the Spy has basically a Python. They don't call it a Python, but it looks just like one. And Spy is one of my favorite classes to play, so naturally it kind of lines up. And well, I just want a Python, okay? So, but of course, Colt stopped making them for a little while, and all the ones that I saw on the secondary market were prohibitively expensive. $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000. Just for one. And I distinctly remember being offered like $5,500 for my original Python once, and couldn't do that because it has a lot of sentimental value, not only to me, but also my dad, because it was his friend's gun. So that gun will not be going anywhere. But it's also it's too nice to shoot. Like I don't want to take it out. I want to put like marks and stuff and things on it. But so it's a very, very rare opportunity that I actually do take that gun out to shoot, because it's just so nice. So when Colt announced in 2020 that they were bringing back the Python, I was like, oh boy, giddy me, right? But they only came out with the stainless ones, and I don't like the stainless ones very much. I don't think they look all that great. I'd rather have like a polished nickel finish, because some of the old Pythons had a polished nickel finish. Those look fantastic, because they had that kind of, they weren't like super stainless color. They were kind of like, they had that little bit of I don't know, blue tint to it, or just nickel just looks different from pure stainless, in my opinion. So the stainless Pythons they first came out with didn't really hold my attention all that much. And after shooting a couple friends of mine Pythons that they had, I'll be honest, I wasn't too impressed with them. I was like, really? That's it? I expected more. But I thought, okay, well, I'll give them a little chance. And then, of course, all the problems that they had on the first models when they came out, those have been addressed since then. So, so later, a couple years later, down the road now, they offer the ones in blue. So I love a nice blued gun, because really, companies making blued guns is becoming increasingly rare these days, which I think is a shame, because I love a really nice, rich blue. I mean, you can just see the bluing on this, how it reflects the light and everything. Oh man, just a really nice looking piece, and it just has that kind of a classic look to it. And of course, it mirrors the original one that I have. So as you can see, though, I have replaced the grips on here with some Packmeyers, because as I found out from the shooting experience, the grips that these come with, the Altamonts here, it's a solid, nice chunk of wood, and they actually have like little locator pins in the grip itself that really lock up the grips nice and tight. But for as good as they look, they offer no extra control, no extra grip. It doesn't fit well at all in my hand. It's like, I'm trying to explain it here. So it flares out at the bottom here, which is nice, but it's right in here in this curve here that there's a gap of space with my particular grip and how I shoot. There's a gap here it's incredibly annoying. And so whenever I go to shoot and I have the grip here, it causes the, under recoil, especially at magnums, it causes the gun to basically do this. And it shifts in my grip. And I really, really, really do not like that. So I either have to hold it kind of at a very, very odd angle where it's almost like kind of dipping forward like this. But if I try to have a normal grip like this, like I said, every shot it goes back like that. And sometimes the knuckle hits me in my hand. And I have to readjust my grip so that way my hand doesn't end up being like this, riding up every single shot. It's very annoying. So the checkering on these factory grips does absolutely nothing. If you have sweaty, wet hands for any reason or anything gets on these grips, nah, you're done. There's no way you're holding onto this gun. It's not working. So that's a bit unfortunate. So I'm going to try out these Pachmayr grippers here. Now I haven't tried the Python yet with these new grips because it is Christmas time. I ran out of time. The ranges are closed. The grips got here a little bit later than I expected, so on and so forth. Whatever, go next weekend. It's fine. So that is a bit of a letdown. But I really don't. The weird part is I don't really remember the original Python I had. Just has the like I said, the imitation mother of pearl grips here, just the panels basically. I don't remember those being like super grippy either, but it wasn't really a problem when I shot that gun. I'm not sure why, because they're smooth and they're just the panels, so the grip is even smaller than this. It's teeny tiny, but this is a nice full grip here. Kind of reminds me of my my 586, Smith & Wesson 586. So, but so my first experience of shooting this, right? I'd done a lot of research into these things, and people were complaining about the sights on this not being all that great, and I kind of understand where they're coming from, because my first 50 rounds, my rear sight was just dangling in the wind. That little, they have a little set screw here. Let me see if I can point it out here. There is a set screw that you can see right there. Yeah, right there. That little set screw there had worked its way loose, or probably was loose from the factory. I didn't check myself before I went and shot it. But my shots were just stringing, left, right, left, right, left, right. And I was like, what the hell's going on here? I'm not that bad of a shot. So I was looking at it, and then, of course, I could feel it and wiggled it with my fingers, and it was just loose. So tightened everything back up. Okay, cool. Thankfully, the zero was perfect again, right when I tightened it. But the way they have these rear sights, no, I'm not a fan. I've already ordered the Wilson Combat replacement that I will put into this gun. Because really, something this nice really deserves to have, a nice sights, nice trigger, nice everything, right? Because it should, anyways, in my eyes. But the fact that they got this so wrong from the factory, I was kind of like, what am I paying all this money for, right? So I paid about $1,400 for this, and then there was a rebate going on, so it's really only about $1,300. But still, that's a lot of money to pay for a revolver, even a Python. I know the original Pythons are very expensive too, but I think in some ways they were actually nicer than these ones, the new ones. So like I said, I'm a little bit partial to the originals because the one I had was just so fantastically nice. So other shooting experience with this, it shoots like a big heavy revolver. It kind of reminds me of a lot of my Colt Trooper that I have, Colt Trooper Mark III, also with a 6-inch barrel. It shoots very much like that in terms of recoil handling, how my arms get tired after I'm trying to go through a box of 50 rounds with this thing as fast as I can. My arms get tired because this thing is it's heavy. It's a big honking revolver. So, yeah, the shooting experience, recoil and everything really does remind me a lot of my Colt Trooper, which is a good thing. I love my Trooper. Fantastic. Great shooting gun. But as far as the trigger goes, I will say the single action in this is disappointing, very disappointing. It is quite heavier than it should be, and for where my position, my trigger finger is on the trigger. So one thing I noticed too later on, if you look at an original Python, you look at the nuPython shape of the trigger, it's actually different. So for me, the original Python trigger is much more, it leverages better for single action pull. So, you can get your tip of your finger here more like on the bottom of the trigger shoe rather than like in the middle. And that affects how the trigger pull weight feels to you as a shooter. So with this, I noticed the single action pull, because my trigger finger rests right there in the center, it is surprisingly heavy. Like, yeah, it's surprisingly heavy. And when I'm on target, I got my sights there all lined up and everything. I'm trying to, pull. There are times where it's not going off how I would want it to. And I say that because other revolvers I've had, like my Colt Trooper, my Smith & Wesson 586, have way better single action triggers than this thing. Way better. I remember first getting my 586 brand new. Gosh, the single action on that is, oh my God, it's incredible. So light. But it's not so light that it's scary. It's just really, really nice and pleasant to shoot. So single action here, very disappointing for how much you're paying. I don't know if the original Pythons without a nice trigger job are like that, but my original Python, because it did have a trigger job, the single action in that is, oh my gosh, it's still the best single action trigger I've tried on a revolver to this day. So getting a factory one like this and trying the single action on this is incredibly disappointing. I can still shoot pretty well with it. Yeah, it's not hard to shoot this well, especially with the sight radius being as big as it is, but single action, nope, disappointing. Definitely needs a trigger job. The double action, though, is interesting because I watched another video, I think it's from Target Suite. If you look up his stuff, he actually has some interesting videos. He did a demonstration that shows that the double action pull on the Python actually breaks at a lesser degree than the single action does. So by degree, I mean basically how far the hammer comes back before it slams forward again. So what he noticed on the double action is it's much, much shorter. You can see pull, and right there. So it breaks about halfway through the rotation, versus the single action comes all the way back here, and you can see that that's much farther than the double action pull. So that's an interesting thing about this gun that I didn't really know before. I'm not sure if the originals are like that. I've never really noticed, to be honest. So that might be a new thing with the internal mechanisms of this being obviously completely different from the original Pythons. So, and speaking on that, the internal mechanisms of the new Pythons are of course completely different from the originals. And I think that has a lot to do with how the trigger and everything feels on this, because this feels absolutely nothing like my original. No way. Not even close. So it's basically in my opinion, it's basically a Python in name, really. If Colt had come out with this and marketed it as anything but a Python, but still had the original, or still had the same price that they do now, these would not sell. Absolutely not. No, it wouldn't happen. People are really buying these, not necessarily for the practical nature of them, but because it's a Python name. They know they can charge that money because it's the name, it's the brand, it's the vibe of it's a Python, So I think that's definitely where they're getting their numbers from. But if you ask me, based on my limited experience shooting this so far, which I've about 500 rounds through this now, mostly magnums. If you had eliminated the Colt branding from this, if you had named this anything else other than a Python, like not a snake gun, this thing would be an absolute flop for the money. No way. Because my Smith & Wesson 586, honestly, in just the trigger pull alone, shoots better than this. Just straight up. And I don't have to... I felt more confident with my 586 factory sights. Didn't have to fiddle with them. I don't feel like they're going to fall out. They weren't loose from the factory. The cylinder release was better. The factory grip, the wooden grips that came with the 586 were better than these ones. Even though I did end up replacing the 586 grips with Packmeyers as well. Just because I really like Packmeyers, but that's just me. My 586, honestly, it probably will outshoot this. Just for me personally at this time, because I've got some probably 1,500, 2,000 rounds through my 586, but just this Python alone, as it is right now, like I said, if you took away all the brand hype and name and everything else, it's a bit disappointing, frankly. So I am going to do a part 2 with this gun. and kind of demonstrate or how my feelings may have differed after I upgrade the sights here, and of course with the new grip, and kind of breaking in the action too, because I'm going to be honest, like this was almost too tight when I got it from the factory. It was actually difficult to open up the cylinder release, and it was actually kind of difficult to still, even now, put the cylinder back into the frame. It wasn't tight in a bad way. It was tight in a way that I was like, okay, they made this really tight from the factory. It's just going to break in with time and use and all of that, which I think has definitely been the case, because just the first 100 rounds or so I put through this versus the next 400, it definitely did feel a little more broken in. I don't know a really good way to describe that, but it just felt more broken in. So I will say one thing that really bugs me about these new Pythons as well is, so the cylinder release, right? With Colts, of course, you have to pull backwards. What I hate about this, and it's really bugged me, is if you press down here on this nub, like you press straight down into it and try to pull it back at the same time, it binds up. You can't pull it back. So you basically just have to pull it straight back, but you cannot press into it. It doesn't work. So that is really crappy, because let's say you're trying to do this in a fast way. If I have my thumb here and I'm trying to pull that back, my natural instinct is to press down on it to make sure I'm engaging it and then pulling it back. Because if I'm just trying to pull it back, I'm trying to I gotta be gentle with it. You gotta be ginger with it. You gotta, don't put too much pressure on it. No, I absolutely hate that. That drives me up a wall. So, like, my 586 does not do that. My Trooper doesn't do that, right? It's only this one. And that is incredibly annoying. So, while it is smooth when it does actually actuate correctly, when you just pull it back and you don't push down on it, totally fine. Cylinder spinning here on the rod, that's totally fine too. Nothing wrong there. Locks up fine. Everything other than that, just it's fine. But that cylinder release just, oh my gosh, that bugs me. Also, using speed loaders. So what I discovered with these grips here, there is not enough clearance in the grips to use, say if you're using 357 Magnum rounds, right? I've used HKS and Safari Land speed loaders with this, and they get caught on the grips every freaking time. It is so annoying. In fact, one time it got stuck so much in there that I think I actually marred my grips up a little bit, because it's wood on plastic, and plastic, of course, is going to scrape. But if you can see, just like a little mark, kind of hard to see in the lighting there, but you see that little discoloration right there? That is the wood being chipped off from my freaking speed loaders, because I tried to get the thing in there, and oh my gosh, like no matter what I did, it was just jammed up in there. I tried rotating it to release the rounds to let them fall into the chambers and everything. Nothing worked. The whole thing was just stuck. So I basically had to beat the speed loader off, and of course it marred the grips there a little bit. It's annoying, very annoying. That never happened with 38s though, because obviously 38s are way short compared to 357s, which are way big. So just kind of annoying again. Just with a little more thought, I think, on Colts, and that would have not been a problem. I don't ever remember that being a problem with my original Python at all, ever. So again, another thing that they could have got a little bit better, frankly. Now, I don't know if that same thing is going to happen with these new grips here, because it does have a little cutout here, sure, but I haven't tried it in action yet, so we'll see if that ends up being the case with these grips as well. So ultimately, right now as it stands, a factory Colt Python, I cannot really give a recommend for the money. If they had priced it about the same level as maybe like a 586 or $800 to $1,000 range, okay, now we're talking. But $1,500, $1,600 MSRP for a Python, no, absolutely not, no way. Not in the factory configuration as we see here. No, it's not worth it. In terms of just practical shooting experience, no. A Smith 580, I can get two Smith 586s for this, and that thing has just been, the 586 has just been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But I got a review up on that. But granted, however, I know exactly why I bought this, and it's because of nostalgia. It's because the name, because it's a Python dude. You show up to the range with this, you get all the boomers want to talk to you, you get all the new kids want to talk to you, everybody wants to talk to you because you got a Python, okay? So I understand that's part of the appeal. That's partly why I bought it. I don't need any more practical revolvers in 357 because I already have so many. The 586 covers all those bases for me just fine. So I know this was a luxury purchase. This was just a fun thing. So in that regard, it is fun. It is nice to shoot. I've gotten some decent accuracy out of this. Probably about 2.12 inches at 25 yards standing. I know I can do better than that. I wish I had some more hand loads to put through this, but unfortunately with me moving and everything, all my reloading stuff is packed in away currently. So be a little while before I get back into that, but hey, that's fine. As it stands, yeah, it is fun. I just don't think it's as good for the money as other revolvers out there. So in terms of just practical shooting experience. Anyway, I will do a part 2 on this and just kind of update you guys with my feelings on it after I've done the requisite upgrades. So, and that reminds me, one last point too, before I go, I cannot stress enough, do not shoot PPU 357 Magnum out of these Pythons. For me specifically, I just remembered this. The first couple of rounds I put through this gun with PPU 357 Magnum, it is the FMJ flat point projectiles. They were shaving off on the forcing cone. So what I mean by that is, if you don't know your revolvers very well, this little piece here that sticks up from the barrel here, that's the forcing cone. That is a very, very critically important part of a revolver, and my issues that I was having with my PPU ammo was that it was binding the cylinder up. And I was like, that's interesting. So when I was able to actually hold the cylinder release and take a nylon hammer and pound out my cylinder, what I found is there were bullet jacket fragments and shavings all up in here in the cylinder area, right in the forcing cone, just everywhere. There's chunks just falling out of the gun. I was like, what the hell is this? So, and then I looked at my target too, and I'm getting like 8 to 10 inch just shotgun pattern on my target. I'm like, okay, I am not that bad with this gun. No way. So I tested other brands of ammo. So like I had like Gecko, I had Norma, Federal, Fiocchi, all different kinds of brands, right? Everything you can think of. And those all shot fine. Those were shot perfectly fine. It's just the PPU crap that was jamming up my revolver. It was causing shavings to come off on the forcing cone. My shots were going all over the freaking place. Absolutely terrible. So, be very careful shooting PPU out of your revolver. I'd rather put it through my lever gun. I just wish I had it with me. I don't right now. Whatever. But yeah, my experience with the PPU pistol ammo have been generally pretty poor. The rifle stuff is okay, but the pistol ammo has been consistently pretty terrible for me. Like I had some 10mm that was splitting cases every single time I shot it, so that was not great. So I don't know if other people have had this issue as well with their Pythons. I haven't noticed this with any other revolvers, but I can't remember the last time I shot PPU 357 Magnum out of any of my other revolvers, frankly. So I don't know if it's just PPU, if it's just the Python, if it's both. Perfect recipe for disaster, right? But do not. I'm never going to shoot PPU out of this gun again. No way, because it's scary, honestly. When a revolver binds up like that, that's not good. That's really not good, because when revolvers have malfunctions, it's usually pretty bad. So it's not like an automatic where you just rag the slide, you're good to go. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that can happen. So, I can't remember the last time I've ever seen a revolver do that with any kind of ammo, where it's like shaving off bullets in the forcing cone. And initially, another older gentleman at the range was like, "Oh, what is your gun out of time?" I was like, "Dude, if the factory nuPython is out of time already, wow, that's that's pretty bad." So I didn't think it was that. That's why I tested the other ammo and everything worked fine, like I said. So the gun is not out of time, okay? I'm just going to put that out there. It's not out of time. But yeah, it's just that crap ammo. So anyway, a bit of a warning there. But anyways, so yeah, just figured I'd mention that. And, be careful shooting these things, of course. And yeah, so I will do the upgrades, and I'll come back with a part 2. So anyways, yeah, nice little Christmas present from me to myself. How did I know exactly what I wanted? Man, I'm good at that. But anyway, so figured I'd record this, it's Christmas time, whatever, Christmas Eve, and I hope everybody out there has a great Christmas and a Happy New Year's. And it's good to be back making videos again. So anyways, we'll see you in that part 2. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.